time, what place do you know the proper pathway for people to understand? Hello and welcome to the program. I am DEJI360. Nigeria will be spending a total of 7.3 trillion naira in the 2017 fiscal year. This was the figure President Buhari placed before a joint session of the National Assembly during the week as he presented the 2017 budget. Now, the president said that 2.24 trillion naira, representing 30.7% of the 2017 budget, would be committed to capital expenditure aimed at pulling the country out of recession as quickly as possible. The capital expenditure was increased from 1.8 trillion naira in 2016 to 2.24 trillion naira in 2017. Now, 2.98 trillion naira will be spent as recurrent expenditure for the 2017 fiscal year. With the experience of the country in recent times as regards the crash in the price of crude at the international market, President Buhari said, having reviewed the trends in the global oil industry, the government had decided to set a benchmark price of $42.5 per barrel and a production estimate of 2.2 million barrels per day for the 2017 fiscal year. According to him, the aggregated revenue available to fund the 2017 budget is actually 4.94 trillion naira. That's 28% higher than the 2016 budget. And that leaves you with a massive deficit of around 2.3 trillion naira. Now, the oil, of course, is projected to contribute 1.99 trillion naira of the amount, and non-oil revenue, of course, will be contributing 1.73 trillion naira, while the budget was predicated on an exchange rate of 305 naira to the dollar. Well, quite an ambitious budget, some would say. Joining me now to look at the 2017 budget, I have two gentlemen. Eze Emecheta is the president of the Nigeria-Chinese Chamber of Commerce. And of course, I have Osilama Okofu, who is an economist. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the program. Let me start with you, the economist. Give me your general impression of this budget.
Essentially for me, you just read out the benchmarks. The question flowing from there is, will this take us out of the present quagmire we are in right now? Some report state that we are presently in a recession up to 3%. The growth rate, projected growth rate, which you didn't read out, is 2.5%.
That's it, yeah.
What it invariably means, therefore, is that under a ceteris paribus assumption, assuming all things are equal, even if we achieve that growth rate by the end of 2017 at 2.5%, it means that we'll still be in recession of 0.05%. So the bottom line, the reason I'm even bringing all this to fore is so that Nigerians do not start to think that, oh, this is it. It's a long haul, so let's brace ourselves for it.
Mr. Mecheta, let me get your view, general perception of this budget. Some people have said you look at the fundamentals, the benchmarks, quite ambitious and probably overly optimistic.
Well, thanks, Deji, for having us on board, and season greetings to DEJI360 family. Budget has just been released, announced, and I would say remarkably it was an improvement. It is an improvement of 2015-2016, because you can see, look at the capital budget expenditure, big improvement. If we get the fundamentals right, because the key thing is to reduce unemployment, create jobs, and you only can do it through the capital expenditure. And it looks to me that they're beginning to think right, that we have to do a lot of things on the public works project, create jobs, grow the economy, make everybody participating. So I would, well, sounding modest now, I would say that let's give it a chance.
Now, very fundamental to this budget is, let's look at the production, oil production benchmark. I mean, we're targeting the target is to produce 2.2 million barrels per day, something similar to the target of 2016. And because of militancy in the Niger Delta region, now at some point we were doing even around 700. Do you think this benchmark is achievable, 2.2 million barrels per day? Because it's very critical whether we like it or not. You look at the component where the revenue will be coming from, it's still it's leaned towards oil. 1.9 trillion naira coming from oil, non-oil 1.7.
It is achievable if Mr. President plays his political card well. We all know why we're not producing. Niger Delta is still boiling, okay? And we cannot attune or make it stop boiling by inflammatory statements. In other words, you have to rein in the people there. Let's make peace. Once there's peace in this country, there's absolutely nothing we can't achieve. Because this is what we've been producing, or even much more.
Much more.
But now they're not happy. There's so many statements flying here and there, militarizing the whole place. That should stop. When we achieve peace, I tell you something, the sky is the limit.
What do you make of that benchmark?
Production benchmark. I actually started off by summing up everything. I said under a ceteris paribus assumption. That is what he just said. It is a whole lot of issues we need to put into perspective. The benchmarks are okay. They are quite ambitious, but I mean, we've been training up very ambitious proposals like this. The issue for me is the execution. If we get our execution right, of course, I mean, we all want the government to succeed because, I mean, it impacts on us positively. There are certain areas, certain aspects that I question. About 30 billion or thereof it was earmarked for the Niger Delta Ministry, and another 40 billion to Niger Delta. And I'm asking, I mean, what's the difference between the Niger Delta Ministry and Niger Delta?
I thought as much.
Yeah, so the issue is not even, well, okay, somebody can actually now come out and explain that. That is fine, but I'm asking those questions. My take is simple. The average Niger Delta doesn't care whether it's Niger Delta Ministry or NDDDC that fixes his or her roads or builds schools and hospitals. In any case, why not collapse these commissions and ministries into few ministries? What is the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing doing? If somebody wakes up in the morning somewhere in Olobiri in the Niger Delta region and sees massive road construction going on there by the Federal Ministry of Works, that is good enough. I just think we are spreading ourselves too thin in too many different directions, and at the end of the day, we end up achieving nothing. This is not the first budget this government is coming up with. That's why I said we need to revise our expectations downwards. I started by saying we are in a recession, conservatively 3%, so it's negative growth of 3%. This is the same economy that was growing at 6.2% before this government came into play. Now, if they are projecting a growth rate of 2.5%, it means that by 2017, we are still going to be in recession. Ceteris paribus. And I know all things are not going to be equal. So Nigerians should not, as usual, will say, oh, okay, everything is going to be fine. Everything is not going to be fine just like that. We need to be pragmatic, and we need to work at making sure that things play out well.
I mean, it's one of the big questions people have been asking is, where does the government get the money to fund this budget? It's quite huge. Where exactly does it get the money to fund the budget? 2016 budget, it's still not even, we've still not even done up to 55% of funding. We've not actually realized the money, and the president actually said that much. So for 2017, you have this huge budget. How are we going to get the money? Because fine, we're projecting to get 1.9 trillion naira from oil, 1.7 from non-oil, but that is given the fact, as you said, all things being equal, that we're able to do 2.2 million barrels per day, and that oil remains steady at, of course, the projection for the budget
is less than
less than
what it's selling.
Hoping that it doesn't come down at all, and the government says it plans to borrow the deficit now of 2.3 trillion.
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to be easy to get the money to fund this budget?
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, when you were reading out the budget and the essential highlights, you didn't state that it's a deficit budget.
It is.
Coming in is 5.02 trillion. Going out is 7.2 plus trillion. So there's a deficit of 2.3 trillion.
Exactly.
The government has said the deficit will be funded internally and externally. Not necessarily borrow. What they said actually is that they will borrow externally, and then the locally the balance will be made up from monies that have been recovered from people that looted our treasury. The question I'm asking is, are these monies already in, or you are speculating that they will come in? If they are already in, how much exactly do we have? How much have you recovered, and from whom? That is one. Secondly, if you are the chief executive officer of a bank, would you borrow money to the accountant of an organization that doesn't know how much income and expenditure that organization has? In terms, I mean, we were amazed when our Minister for National Planning, Economic Development and National Planning, couldn't even tell the world.
Maybe he just didn't have the figures offhand.
No, but the bottom line is, I mean, he should have those figures off the cuff. So your perception is very, very important. If you are telling the international community that you are not up to scratch, you are not on ground, they will be reluctant in wanting to deal with you. These are issues we need to look at. You know, I'm not saying it's not good in certain areas, but then again, too, probably need to be wary of putting square pegs in round holes. This man is a lawyer. He's not an economist. He's not an accountant. He's not a business executive in terms of, I mean, someone who probably read business administration. I mean, so these are some of the issues we need to look at, ensuring that we have the right set of people to do the job. Otherwise, it just becomes a document. A document by itself will not implement itself. The document is good, is wonderful. Like I said, the benchmarks are wonderful. They are almost or nearly achievable. But I will not sit here and tell you they are achievable. They are not. We will not start producing 2.2 million barrels in a day. Like he rightly pointed out. No, we certainly cannot. Like he rightly pointed out, in as much as I try to hold back on discussing issues of politics, but I mean, he has dissected it. The president needs to walk back on a whole lot of things. A whole lot of things. If I was advising this president, he will walk back to the point that it will seem as if he's even groveling to Nigerians, which is not a bad thing because, after all, we voted for him, right? He needs to walk back to the international community and tell them Nigerians are not corrupt. We are ready to do business. Just like the president of Iran did, Hassan Rouhani. And the world is doing business with Iran today. And they are shunning Nigerians because the chief marketing officer of this country went around saying we are a corrupt people. So there are a lot of fundamental issues that need to be sorted out, rhetorics and all.
I get your point. But Mr. Mecheta, you think, just how challenging do you think it will be to fund this budget?
Well, one thing I would like you to keep your eye on is on the new federal inland revenue service. They're getting more and more efficient, and I would also like to see their numbers. If they're very efficient and effective in collecting taxes, probably we might even have a surplus. You see, they were not factored in on this. We're looking at oil and the other things. But if we're serious, we would never have a deficit budget. Quote me. If we're very, very effective, it wouldn't happen now. How much are we spending? It's such a big nation, but there's so many leakages and wastages. Let's put them together. So I'll hold my breath until I see their numbers, because I know that even the guy out there, he did a wonderful job in Lagos. If he replicates the same thing at the center, there will be a lot of money. So probably that's where they're keeping their eye on. And we also should not take our eyes off that area.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the program, and thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us on the 2017 budget. So we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about the need or the call for the restructuring of Nigeria. Stay with us. Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on DEJI360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decision.